Yeah, I don't want to keep on being a negative Nancy, but there are so many bigger conversations that we can have that, yes, they're absolutely draining. I do not like talking about this stuff either, but it is kind of my job to talk about what's been talked about with this Vancouver Canucks hockey team. I hate it. Not the job itself, but I hate the fact that we're talking about this, because today we are talking about Vancouver Canucks former head coach Rick Tocchet and some really intriguing talking points as he leaves the franchise and decides to move on to other endeavors. Let's go over firstly to a conversation about Quinn Hughes, and then we'll get into the talk about Elias Pettersson. Because one of the bigger things that was discussed on the radio and on TV was tweeted about here 2 days ago by Tash. It's a quote from Rick Dhaliwal on the latest edition of Donnie and Dolly. He went out there and said this: Rick Tocchet talked to Quinn Hughes before he made his decision. I think Tocchet has a pretty good indication about Hughes staying or going. You think he bolted for no reason? I think he knows some stuff that other people don't know. Ugh. That sucks, man. Like, Rick Tocchet and Quinn Hughes talking about the situation before Tocchet makes his decision to leave the franchise. Does that not scream the biggest red flag out there that could be possible? Right? There have been extended rumors. Not going to go out there and attribute this to any one person in particular, but there have been more discussions on social media that, hey, Tocchet and Hughes went out for food and they talked about stuff, and that's when they realized that things aren't really going all too well with this team, and that's when Tocchet got the final nail in his coffin that he was going to leave, when Quinn expressed potential dissatisfaction with the state of the franchise, and once Tocchet started doubting that Quinn was going to stay, that's when he said that he wasn't going to stay. And in a weird spiral paradox of events, Quinn Hughes has an even bigger inclination to not stay because Rick Tocchet, the coach that he liked, is not going to stay. So it just kind of flips in and around itself into this weird concoction of an undigestible Vancouver Canucks mess. And now, we're seeing commentary like this from Jim Rutherford. Let's go out there and put this out. It's published on VancouverIsAwesome.com by Daniel Wagner 2 days ago. Why Rutherford talking about trading Quinn Hughes is a red flag. This piece goes back to the Rutherford presser and the 100% Hockey podcast, where Jim Rutherford said on the podcast how some of the comments that he made were in jest. He was just joking around. I wasn't totally serious. Wagner writes here, though, that obviously Rutherford quipping that he wanted to acquire Jack and Luke Hughes was a joke. If it hadn't been a joke, he could have been in some hot water, as the NHL has talked about clamping down on tampering in recent months, with the threat of hefty fines meant to keep teams and executives in line. Now, this is where the article dives into the actual possibility of Quinn Hughes having some sort of a change in scenery if he leaves or if he gets traded. As for Quinn, I don't have a deadline, said Rutherford. We do control him for 2 years. I think a better way of saying that is we control him for 1 year and 2/3, because if we get to that trade deadline 2 years from now and it looks like he doesn't want to stay, then we would have to do something at that point. But we're hoping that he's here to stay. He's the leader of the team and the face of the franchise. Now, that's not technically wrong, right? We all understand that Quinn Hughes' contract goes on till 2026-2027, and that a year from now he will have the opportunity to sign an extension. If he doesn't sign an extension, he'll be a free agent in July 1st of 2027. So we all understand the stakes here. But Wags does go out there and say that it is somewhat of a red flag that Jim Rutherford is even acknowledging this as a possibility, to go out there and say that, hey, like, there could be a chance that Quinn Hughes doesn't want to stay here and he wants out and he wants to go to New Jersey and he wants to play with his brothers. Wags concludes here at the bottom that would leave the Canucks in a situation of either trading Hughes as a rental and thereby getting a limited return, or letting him walk for nothing. Neither is a good option. Frankly, if Quinn Hughes goes into 26-27 without a contract extension, the Canucks are in trouble. The fact that Jim Rutherford is thinking in those terms is a cause for concern, but it's also not surprising. They didn't show much long-term thinking with Brock Boeser, who is now likely to walk in free agency for nothing. Similarly, they didn't get Rick Tocchet signed to a contract extension after he won the Jack Adams, and now he's gone too. This article then was posted onto the R Canucks subreddit, and there was this post made by Mefnik. Rick Tocchet having brunch with Quinn Hughes to discuss the future, and then bailing the next week is a bigger red flag, I'm not gonna lie. And then some of the replies say, wait, this happened? I hate this gosh darn team. As an American hanging on since the Bertuzzi, Naslin, Morrison era, I'm just about done with this team. There are reports that it happened, details will never be known, but a competitor like Hughes, you know he wants to win. If the Canucks stay a middling team, you can bet that he would want to leave. So again, we're not going to go out there and put too much stock into commentary that says, oh yeah, Quinn Hughes and Rick Tocchet had brunch, and then Tocchet decided to leave. But if that's really the case, if that absolutely did happen in that way, we know that Tocchet did talk to Quinn Hughes in some capacity before he left. If that's the case, then it's like, hey, how does that conversation go? I'm not going to put words into anybody's mouths here, but if Rick Tocchet is bringing up how he's debating leaving or going, and inevitably he decides to leave, I wonder what Quinn Hughes would have told this guy. Like, yeah, I don't believe in this team either. Yeah, we got some good young pieces. Yeah, this guy's going to be good. Yeah, this guy's not good. And yeah, I'm going to leave to New Jersey. Oh, boy. That just makes things feel so much more frustrating. And you know what else is kind of frustrating too? Looking at the what could have beens of the world. Here's another post on Twitter by Arpon on BC. It's Moj, who was asked on Halford and Brough about the biggest factors that he believed pushed out Rick Tocchet. Moj cited the future of Quinn Hughes with the team, and also Elias Pettersson. Speaking about that Elias Pettersson, here's a talking point that I wanted to go out there and dive into here. It was posted on an article by Sportsnet's Ian McIntyre 2 days ago as well. Canucks Notebook, pressure not off Pettersson after Tocchet departs. This article is a really good read, but in the context of this video, all we care about is the opening few sentences. Had he stayed as Vancouver Canucks head coach, Ian McIntyre writes here that Rick Tocchet planned to visit Sweden this summer to spend time with Pettersson in order to strengthen their relationship and set expectations for next season. Tocchet's decision to leave this week ensured it never came down to a choice between the coach and the player whose conditioning and underachievement were among the many factors that sank the team. But Tocchet was willing to work with Pettersson, and although it's harder to know what the private center thinks, we believe Pettersson still respected the coach and is determined to be better for next year. This makes it feel even weirder. Like, yeah, Rick Tocchet had this plan to go over to Sweden and talk and chill and hang out and train and spend time with Pettersson. He wanted to do that. There's expectations that needed to be fulfilled here. That's so interesting. Like, just based off of all the other coaches we have seen the Vancouver Canucks have, like, the only other significant coach and player interaction that I remember talking about on this YouTube channel was like, what, Bruce Boudreau going over to Detroit to try and recruit Andrei Kuzmenko? That wasn't even the same thing. It's not like Bruce Boudreau went to Bali or whatever. Now, Rick Tocchet's like, yeah, enough is enough. This PD guy didn't really do all too well. He only had 45 points. I gotta go fly my behind to Sweden myself to try and knock some sense into this guy. At the very least, Pettersson is signed on long term. But for right now, just thinking about the way the organization views him and some of the other fallout we have seen with this team, it's just so disheartening, man. Like, I can't even begin to articulate how disappointing it is to be a Vancouver Canucks fan at this point. And believe me, you know, this is not going to be it. We're going to still make other videos. We're going to talk about other talking points with this squad. But for now, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about more of these red flags with the Rick Tocchet departure, how Quinn Hughes plays into it, how Tocchet and Hughes apparently met before Rick Tocchet decided to leave, and how Tocchet had it in the cards to fly over to Sweden to talk some shop with Elias Pettersson. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.